I was scrolling through my phone at 3 in the morning, the living room dark except for the soft glow of the screen. The notifications had stopped an hour ago, leaving me with the quiet hum of the city outside. That's when I saw it, an Instagram story posted from a club downtown. The caption made my stomach twist like a corkscrew. Bachelorette vibes, can't believe I'm stuck with him for life. It was from Lila, my fiancée. My Lila. The woman I thought I knew. The woman whose laugh I could recognize even in a crowd. The woman whose hand I had planned to hold for the rest of my life. And there she was, in a glittering dress, champagne in one hand, the other draped over some stranger's shoulders. I stared at it, unblinking, my heart hammering. I felt the warmth drain from my face, leaving me icy. First I thought it had to be a joke. Maybe a poor attempt at humor, a miscaption. But the expression on her face wasn't playful. There was a smirk, a thrill, something dangerous. And the way she leaned into him, the way her eyes sparkled with excitement, made my chest tighten like a fist had gripped it. I didn't know whether to scream, throw my phone across the room, or just disappear. My hand shook as I pressed on her tagged friends, hoping to find context. But all I found were more photos, videos, and boomerangs. She was laughing, leaning in closer to him, dancing, her hair falling across her shoulders in that careless, carefree way I'd once adored. And then there it was. A slow, deliberate kiss on his cheek in one of the videos. I sank into the couch, my head in my hands. How had I missed this? How had she fooled me? We had been planning our wedding for 6 months, picking venues, tasting cakes, sending invitations. I had trusted her, fully, completely, without a shadow of doubt. And now this. The next day, I tried to confront her. She was radiant, dressed for brunch with her friends, hair perfectly done, lipstick the exact shade I used to say made her look like a sunrise. I wanted to hate her, to scream, to cry. But when I looked at her, I saw the woman I loved, or thought I loved. And that made it worse. Lila, I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts. We need to talk about last night. She laughed lightly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Oh, come on. You're overreacting. It was just a party. Just a party. I repeated, my voice rising. You said you were stuck with me for life. And you? I stopped myself, trying to keep it together. You were kissing someone else? Her laugh faltered for a fraction of a second. It wasn't like that, she said, almost too quickly. He's just a friend. You're being paranoid. I wanted to believe her. I wanted so desperately to believe her. But every instinct screamed otherwise. I could see the way her eyes darted, the tension in her hands, the way her smile didn't quite reach them. There was a secret she wasn't telling. I spent the next days in a fog. I replayed every memory, every conversation, every small argument, searching for signs I had missed. And the more I looked, the more I found. The nights she claimed to be working late. The sudden interest in going out with old friends. I didn't know she had. The way she'd glance at her phone and smile, just a little too knowingly. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted one of her friends from the party, a girl I barely knew but had messaged me back once in a while. I asked her directly, and she told me the truth. She's been seeing him for months, she said, her voice low, almost pitying. It started as flirting, but then, she's been careful though. You'd never have guessed. She's good at hiding it. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. Months she had been lying, pretending, smiling at me while everything else happened behind my back. The betrayal wasn't just the kiss, or the parties, or the lies. It was the time. All the time I had given her, the love, the trust, the plans. I confronted her again, this time at our apartment. The air was thick, almost tangible, with tension. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware, or pretending to be, of the storm about to break. I know, I said simply, sitting across from her. Know what? She asked, her voice casual, almost mocking. That you've been seeing him, I said, my voice low but steady. For months. She froze, and for a second I thought I saw regret flicker in her eyes. But it disappeared almost immediately. replaced by a cool, measured expression. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. I laughed bitterly. "Don't lie to me, Lila. I saw the pictures, the videos. I know everything." And my throat closed. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to shake her until she felt a fraction of this pain. "I loved you. I trusted you." Her expression softened, but not with guilt. With something else. Something I couldn't recognize anymore. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said. "It just did. And I didn't know how to stop it." I felt my chest tighten like a vice. "How could you do this? How could you let it go on?" "I was confused," she whispered. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought, maybe if I ignored it, it would go away. Maybe we'd figure things out." "But you didn't," I said. The words were barely audible. "You didn't figure anything out. You lied. You laughed. You celebrated it. And you called me stuck. Stuck with you for life." She looked down, twisting her fingers together. "I didn't mean it the way you think. I didn't." "Then how do you mean it?" I shouted, standing up. Because it sounded pretty clear from where I was sitting. Pretty clear from the champagne, the dancing, the way you kissed him. She didn't answer. She couldn't. And in that silence, I felt everything shatter. The next days were a blur of arguments, tears, and attempts to understand something that couldn't be understood. I loved her, and part of me always would. But the betrayal had carved a chasm in my heart, one that couldn't be bridged by apologies or excuses. I thought about the wedding, the invitations, plans. Every decision we had made together now felt like a cruel joke. I wanted to cancel everything, scream at the world, demand that someone, anyone, undo this pain. But life doesn't work like that. Life moves forward even when your heart wants to stop. In the end, it was her own guilt that gave me the clarity I needed. She stopped hiding after a week, finally confessing everything in a flood of tears. She begged for forgiveness, for a second chance, for understanding. She cried on my shoulder, whispered my name, told me how much she loved me. And for a moment I felt something stir, a flicker of what we had once shared. But love, I realized, doesn't always conquer betrayal. Sometimes love is not enough. And trust, once broken, is like shattered glass. You can gather the pieces, but the cracks will always remain. I ended it that night. Not with rage, not with anger, but with the quiet, heavy resolve of someone who knows what they deserve. "I can't," I said, holding her hands, feeling their warmth, knowing I would never touch them again. "I can't do this. I can't trust you again. I can't be with someone who made me feel like this. I loved you, Lila. I still do, in a way. But it's not enough." She sobbed, burying her face in my chest. "Please don't leave me," she whispered. "I have to," I said softly. "For both our sakes." Leaved it. I walked out of our apartment that night, the city lights blurring through my tears. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I'd ever love like that again or trust like that again. But I knew one thing. I had to survive this. I had to reclaim myself from the wreckage she had left behind. The betrayal would linger, like a scar etched deep into my soul. But life would go on. And eventually, maybe, I would learn to breathe without the weight of her lies pressing down on me. As I looked back one last time at the apartment we had shared, I whispered into the night, "I deserved better than this. I deserve better." And for the first time in weeks,